Hello everyone, my name is Lewis Jackson and I am on a mission to make crypto incredibly easy for every single person to understand. Today's video comes as a result of understanding myself and you as an audience. Everyone in crypto just wants to make some money. And ideally, the smart ones among us just want to make some money in crypto that we can also use as cash flow. Now, crypto and cash flow, you'd imagine, don't typically go hand in hand, but they can. Usually, how it goes is you buy crypto and you sell crypto, and the action of selling crypto makes you the money. However, there is a way that if you have a good, portfolio structure and a plan of action, there's a likelihood that you're going to have an amount of crypto that you're going to sell, that's take profits, but then there's also an amount of crypto that you're going to hold on for the long term for whatever reason. Now, one of those reasons, aside from the fact that it could go up in value majorly over time, over a longer period of time, the other one is that you can actually put those assets that you're not selling into use. And you can do that to create a yield, generate a yield, an income, to create that cash flow that you're looking for. So provides a way to where you can make money from crypto without actually selling, okay? Now, that comes in the form of AMMs. AMMs stands for Automated Market Makers, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you if AMMs confuse you and you've heard of this before, or even if you haven't heard of it. I'm going to give you the foundational understanding of what AMMs are, and even go into the intricacies of how AMMs work on a blockchain called the XRP ledger. Okay, so AMMs differ, but we're going to really focus in on the XRP ledger because the main holding in my entire portfolio, and the chances are they are the same for you, is XRP. So how can we use our XRP without actually selling it? That's the premise. So let's get into AMMs. I've got my notes over here on the side, so forgive me if I keep looking over here. But I think first, before we understand AMMs, we actually have to understand markets. Now, I'm really going to go down into the elementary level here, but if you know about markets, fine, that's fine. But listen to it from the beginning. It's all been made, this video has been made in a linear fashion, so you can follow it one step to the next, and each step builds on each other, so it gives you that foundational understanding. Now, a market is defined as two or more people making an economic transaction. Okay, so this is two or more people. So essentially, this person has something, this person wants something, or this person wants that thing, and they use money or a trade. It can be any transaction, but it has to be economic in nature. This creates a market. So a market essentially is a collection of people that want to buy something, and within that market, people are selling the thing that people want to buy. Okay, so that very simply is a market. Now, this process, if you're at a farmer's market, for example, it's the same as a cryptocurrency market or a stock market, whatever it is. Let's just say we're at the farmer's market and we're buying apples here. This person has juicy apples. There's my apple. This person has juicy apples. This person wants to buy the apples, so he exchanges money for that thing. Okay? And he only buys that thing if he believes that the apple is priced properly. Okay? So this person can't, the guy selling the apples can't charge $10 for an apple because this guy won't pay for it. So a market only functions if the price of the thing matches the value that is perceived by the market. Now, if this was a market where $10 apples was the norm, then of course he would buy it because that's a fair market value. It's a value of the apple that is fair for that environment. Okay? So there's lots of moving parts in a market, but very simply, it really is the foundation of what is called supply and demand. Trust me, if you understand all this stuff at a core level, don't skip, watch it all in order because I'm really building on everything here. Okay, so let's explain supply and demand. Let's erase this whole thing, but we'll use apples. Supply and demand. Breaking down those two words, we've got two sides of things. We've got the amount of things that you can offer, so the amount of apples available. I'm only going to draw 2 apples here because drawing apples is not my strong suit. So this is the supply of apples, how many apples that we have, and the demand is how many people want to buy apples. Okay, so within a market, you are confined to supply and demand. A market is run by supply and demand. If the supply is low, but the demand is high, meaning there are more people that want to buy the thing, but there are less things available, the apples will go up in price. Okay, so within the market, the sellers are trying to price their products in accordance to the supply and the demand that they have available. So this will always be adjusting. The price will always be adjusting based on that analysis. And these people will only buy the apples will only buy the apples at the price that has been dictated, or at the fair market value, which isn't always the price that has been dictated by the seller. So that's why it's a competitive environment, because the seller has to make sure that their prices match the expectations or the fair market value of the thing that people want to buy. Like, it has to match their expectations. And so you get this market, it's an ebb and flow, and if the demand for something is really low, like let's say there's only one guy and this guy's got 400 apples, this guy only needs like 4 apples to have in his house, you know? Like there's too much supply for the demand, and so the price of the asset goes down to reflect it because there isn't any scarcity. So you get a lower price per apple if the supply is high, because the seller wants to get rid of inventory. They don't want apples just lying around rotting, right? They're getting lost. They're losing that way. So rather than lose out and waste food, they'll lower the prices so that this person thinks it's more of a fair market trade, and they'll buy the apples. Okay, so every market in the world is dictated by supply and demand, I think. That's actually a blanket statement that I'm not even sure is true. But certainly in this situation, and the crypto market, where you've got a certain amount of tokens that exist in total, if you have a higher demand for the tokens and there are less tokens than the demand, then the price is going to go up, right? There's scarcity. The less tokens available, the more in demand they are, the prices are going to go up. This is why you get wild fluctuations in the price, because there is a constant changing between what the seller wants from their asset, in terms of value, and what the the buyer is willing to pay. So the prices go up and down. This explains the up and down nature of everything. So that is a market, and what confines a market, which is supply and demand. So, when we look at traditional markets, the issues that we have with traditional markets, like the stock market, for example, is that the stock market trades within a certain amount of time. Like there is a period of time in the day where markets are, up. So let's say the complete day time duration of any market, I'm just making this up right now, is 12 hours. You basically only get to trade in that market and buy and sell in that market for a period of 12 hours in a day. That's half the day. But cryptocurrency allows you to trade 24 hours a day, because there's no open hours, because this is all on the computer. None of it's requires people at any building or anything to wave their hands and trade like the stock market thing. It reminds me of that Robert Downey Jr. clip of him in Wall Street watching everyone go crazy. That was obviously before the crazy digitization of everything. But anyway, so crypto trades 24 hours a day. So this market acts very, I wouldn't say differently, because it goes in accordance to fear and greed responses of people, but we can get more accomplished, I guess, in a 24-hour period, and it's open to the entire world all the time. And so this market reacts in a kind of a more volatile way than the stock market in a way, because more can happen in that time period. Now, that's one of the issues with traditional finance, and is one of the issues that created the demand when blockchain came about for something called DeFi. So DeFi, broken down, is decentralized finance, as opposed to traditional banking, for example, which would be centralized finance. Centralized. That means there is an entity in the middle that controls everything outside of it. So that's CeFi. but DeFi doesn't have a center. Okay, so people can just participate in DeFi because it's decentralized and doesn't rely on a bank. Now, obviously, this has an appeal for people in the financial markets and investing because, they're not restricted by the traditional system in that way. And there's obviously fee reductions and everything. It costs less, more opportunity. It's a booming early market and all of that kind of stuff. So within DeFi, within decentralized finance, something has come up that's been super, super unique. And that is AMMs. And obviously, this is what this video is about. Now, an AMM allows you to create your own market for a very specific pair of assets. So in any trade, in any market, there are two assets. So you've got the asset that the buyer is trying to attain, and you've got the asset that the seller is trying to sell, right? There's only two assets. This is what we call a trading pair. So if you operate in this market, you're basically trading between these two assets. So this person has apples, this person has dollars, and so now what you have here is a trading pair of apples and dollars. Okay? And so in the traditional markets, that's how it works, right? But in the DeFi automated market maker system, you now create your own little market that you kind of control and participate in. So you, in a way, you almost become a bank in a roundabout way. So in an AMM, let's just say we're going to use the trading pair of XRP and USD, so US dollar. Any company that kind of wants to use one of these assets or trade one of these assets could do so outside of the wider market that you would find on an exchange, for example. An exchange is where you just buy crypto and sell crypto, and sometimes you hold your crypto there. Instead of going to an exchange to make your trade, you can actually make your trade within this liquidity pool. And liquidity pool really just means, if you imagine, that's a pool. And liquidity means like cash, like available cash that's able to be used. So just imagine this as a cash pool. So a pot, whenever you were kids and you wanted to go somewhere or buy something fun or whatever, you would pool up your money to buy the thing, right? This is exactly what it is. So lots of people can contribute to this pool, and their money goes into this liquidity pool. And if anyone using the liquidity pool wants to make a trade or buy something, they can come in here, grab some money from the pool, and make their trade. But you're thinking, okay, so people have put their money, their dollars in here, their XRP in here. If this person just spent the money, then that's no good, is it? Right? But that's not necessarily the case. So what has happened here is, because these people have contributed to the pool, they now own a portion of that pool. So let's put it this way. So this is all the money in the pool. And let's say you purchase, you use 1,000 XRP and $1,000, for example, and you contribute that into the pool. Let's say, for example, you now own 1% of the entire pool. Okay, so your contribution goes in and you now earn 1%, or whatever the proportion that you've put in is as a representation of the entire market, of the entire liquidity pool. So whenever anyone uses the crypto, the XRP, or the dollars in this pool, or they trade, you get a percentage of the fees as a liquidity provider, a cash provider. You've provided the crypto in there. You get a percentage of the fees that is reasonable based on the allocation that you have in the entire thing. So for example, a transaction happens, this is not accurate in terms of numbers, but a transaction happens and it costs $10 in fees. Well, because you've contributed and your position in this entire thing represents 1%, you're going to get 10 cents of that transaction fee, or whatever 1% is. I might have done that wrong. So you get 1% as a yield based on what based on the transaction fees that have happened in that AMM. Okay, so everyone that's contributing is also earning a yield. And that's super interesting because the whole desire here is to create cash flow. And this seems to be one of those ways that you can do it. So you can create this cash flow. So the purpose of these AMMs is to basically provide liquidity to a market, but they've made that market closed in and away from the traditional markets or even the traditional crypto markets where you buy things on exchanges. It's removing from that situation, and it's almost like crowd-funded pools of cash that people can use for transactions. If they need liquidity, they can get liquidity, and then everyone who owns a portion of this liquidity pool gets a cut of the fees, right? So it actually turns into a way to generate a yield. Yes, so when you put in your capital, when you put in your XRP in this example, or you put in your cash, you get given something called a liquidity pool token. So you get liquidity pool tokens. Now, liquidity pool tokens are just a made-up token, basically, that is only used in this liquidity pool that represents your 1%, say, in this example. So 1% might equal 100 liquidity pool tokens. And so when you contribute your XRP and your dollars, you get a certain amount of liquidity pool tokens as you are a liquidity provider. And you'll see this thrown around a lot. The word is called LPs. You are a liquidity provider. So multiple liquidity providers are called LPs. And LPs hold liquidity pool tokens that represent their share of the entire liquidity pool. The reason this is interesting, and the reason that there is an A in AMM, because a market maker is essentially just something that manages the market and the transactions. An automated market maker is almost like making all of this work automatically rather than with any at all human intervention. Aside from the people interacting in the market, that is human intervention. So let's explain that, the automated part. The automated element of this comes about as because of a few different features that we see in specifically, I'm going to talk specifically about the XRPL AMMs, just because I think that's of most interest to everyone here. But what the automated part will do is it will continuously try to balance the two pairs. So for example, you've got 100 XRP, but you don't have any dollars. And you're contributing to an XRP US dollar pair. Now, if I just contribute XRP, the balance is off, because what needs to happen is the XRP needs to balance and be equal to the US dollar amount. Okay, so people need to contribute just as much USD as they do XRP in dollar value. Otherwise, it gets out of balance. And when things get out of balance, things get really rough, because if people want to buy, you end up creating this supply and demand imbalance, and that would require manual intervention. So you actually have to make it automated. So they have these automated in the way of actually balancing it all out. Now, the XRPL AMMs do something really, really unique. And that's done by two different things. Let me just see these mechanisms here that I saw. So we've got, first of all, we've got the auctions. So within the XRPL XLS30D AMMs, you have auctions. And this allows the ability for people to bid on the fees that they get to pay for their transactions. So any given person wants to use the AMM. In order to use the AMM, they have to dip into the liquidity pool to use the AMM, right? But there are trading fees with AMMs. Like there's a fee set by the creator of that AMM. And you have to pay the fee for every transaction. But if you want to use the AMM, but you want to have a chance at getting lower fees, that would be interesting for one type of person. And that type of person is called an arbitrager. It's really hard to say in British English. Arbitrager. Arbitrager. That might be spelled completely wrong. I need to check my thing now. Who cares? So the role of an arbitrager is what they do is they look at the same asset in two different locations and see if there's a price difference. So, for example, an arbitrager will look at the value of XRP in the liquidity pool, but they'll also look at the value of XRP on an exchange, for example. Now, the value of the XRP on a liquidity pool might be, let's say it's 53 cents. These are going to be more extreme than reality, but let me just make the point here. So it might be 53 cents in the liquidity pool, but on the exchange, it might be 52 cents. At which point, the arbitrage opportunity is in the difference. So the difference here is 1 cent. So they could buy their XRP on the exchange, take it to the AMM, and sell it in the AMM for more money than they had. So if you're playing this over, like, let's say, 1 million XRP, for example, and this 1 cent difference between them is actually turns into thousands of dollars. So arbitragers are proactively looking for these things. Now, because they're making a transaction in the AMM, they have to pay fees. So if there was an opportunity for these auctions to impact their upside, they will have more incentive to engage with arbitrage actions, doing arbitrage. They'll have more incentive because the fees on this transaction go down and they make more money on their arbitrage actions, right? And so this acts as a really cool way to balance the XRP and the USD using auctions if you allow incentive for arbitragers to make money on the imbalance of XRP within the AMM and outside the AMM. And the same for the dollar, because the dollar also fluctuates, right? So people arbitrage the dollar, people arbitrage XRP, people arbitrage the pair, right? And so people, as long as people can be incentivized to make money in this way, that's not you or me really in the arbitrage game, but there are people out there, this will remain really balanced. And so arbitragers are always going to be applying for these auctions to try and win lower fees so that it ends up balancing things out. And balancing things out helps with the biggest issue about AMMs, and that is called impermanent loss. So impermanent loss, let's write this down. Impermanent loss. Impermanent loss from the top down is essentially you put money in, and when you come to claim that money back out, it's less than you put in, which is obviously not the idea for what we want when we want to put our money in almost like it's not sold, but it returns a yield and we can just withdraw at any time for the value that we put in. But it's not quite as simple as that. Because like I said in this example, we've got XRP and US dollars. And these are the pairs within the AMM, right? We understand that. That's the market we've created. This is the liquidity pool. Now, what can happen is the US dollar price could remain steady, but the XRP price could go up or it could go down, and it can go up or down quite drastically. And because of this imbalance that happens, sometimes, let's say you've put, what's my example? I actually do have an example here of how these AMMs work together. 1 second. I have an example that I can't do it off the top of my head, so I'm just going to do it here. So let's say you add into the liquidity pool, you add 100 XRP and 100 USD. And if you're wondering whether you have to give both sides of the liquidity pool thing, we're going to get into that in a second. But if you add 100 XRP and 100 USD into the liquidity pool, and the XRP at that time is 53 cents like it is today, or around there, right? It's just an example. If the price of XRP then increased to, say, like $1.06, so now it's gone up quite a bit. It's almost, it's doubled. It's doubled in price. Arbitragers now will adjust the pool so it holds less XRP in relation to the dollar amount. So they will reduce the amount of XRP, but increase the amount of dollars. in order to balance out that difference because of the movement of the XRP price. Okay, so after that price movement, you personally might only now have a stake of 50 XRP in the pool, whereas you put in 100 XRP. But on the other side, you might now have $200. So you started with 100 XRP and $100. Now, with this price change of XRP, you've now got 50 XRP, so half the XRP, but you've got double the dollars. And this balances out, right, to basically say, you know, around about, you've got the same amount of liquidity pool tokens that this relates to, because you've still got the same liquidity pool tokens as a liquidity pool provider, but the way that it's made up has changed. So you might look at this and think, okay, I've now halved the amount of XRP I have. That's impermanent loss. That's what it is. You've lost the XRP, but it's balanced out on the dollar side, right? So, you know, it makes complete sense for me. So for example, if you had just held your XRP and your dollars outside of the liquidity pool, you would have ended up, let's see my maths here. Yeah, you would have ended up with the price movement of XRP with $206, because that would have reflected the doubling of the XRP price and how many XRP you have in there. So you would have, and the amount of dollars that you've contributed. So you would have ended up with $206 if you'd kept the 100 XRP and the $100 outside of the liquidity pool. But if you withdraw this, you withdraw your 50 XRP and your $200, you actually end up with, what did I say? $253. So you actually have, in terms of value, more money now than you would have had if you'd left it outside of the liquidity pool, but you've lost half your XRP. So impermanent loss is resolved by how auctions and arbitrages interact with the liquidity pool, incentivized, of course, because they get lower transaction fees. And so what you end up with is a auto-balancing AMM. And that's one of the really cool features about the XLS30D AMMs, because that is something that can happen. Just realized how crazy my hair looks. Anyway, let's forget about that. So there's lots of other things that you can get into that are really, really complex with AMMs. But one thing I wanted to get into with AMMs, just quickly, is the concept of taxable events in all of this. Because if you're thinking about holding a portion of your crypto and then using it for AMMs, there are considerations that you have to think about, certainly with tax. So I'm going to provide blanket statements here. I'm not a tax expert, but it seems like the rules in the US and the UK are basically the same. They just might use different terminology. So I'm going to talk about the tax here and how we might be able to kind of handle all of those things and the different events. So in order to participate in an AMM, generally, this isn't always the case, and it will change from AMM to AMM. In order to participate to, let's say, the XRP USD AMM, you have to contribute both assets. So if you want to be a part of this and get the yield, you're going to have both dollars to give and XRP. So this might be done in the form of stablecoin. So you would usually see like USDT or USDC or even the XRP stablecoin, which will be another AMM. And so you might be someone who's only holding your XRP. So let's say your portfolio is up here and it's just XRP, for example. Well, you've got to sell some XRP to participate in this. So you actually have to sell XRP so that you can have the dollars to participate. Now, like I said, some AMMs, depending on the rule of that AMM, you always have to check this out, might allow you to have a single asset. You might be allowed to provide one of the two assets, but you know, that to me gets really complicated. So, and it's also AMM to AMM is going to be different. So depending on the rules, you just have to check. So in order to change your XRP into dollars, that's a taxable event. So in participating in the AMM, you have to assume tax liability for one of your actions to get there. unless you already have USD and you already have XRP, and in which case, this moving XRP from your cold storage wallet into the AMM is not a taxable event, right? So it's not a taxable event, but changing your XRP to provide the USD to the AMM is a taxable event. So you're going to get taxed on this part. Now, as you're participating in the AMM and you're earning a yield from the fees based on your percentage, your amount of LP tokens that you have, so the yield that comes out is a taxable event. So there's two layers of tax here. There's a taxable event when you convert or sell your XRP into dollars in order to participate into the AMM. Then the yield that comes from the AMM is also taxable. Okay, so there's two taxable events that happen right there. So I thought that was really important for you to understand because, you know, we have to consider tax in our plans here. Am I missing anything here? I just want to make sure that I am not. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. There's single-sided liquidity provisioning. So some XRPL AMMs where this is not possible, I don't think, in normal AMMs in normal DeFi, specifically on the XRPL in the AMMs, you can sometimes deposit a single asset. So you can just contribute your XRP. Now, the benefit of that, of course, is that you don't create a taxable event. The first taxable event you create is the yield that you generate from the AMM. So you're avoiding the requirement to have to put USD in, but there's an issue here. There's only so much arbitrageurs can do to balance the US dollar and the XRP. There's only so much they can do. So if you get everyone doing this for tax reasons, right, to avoid the taxable event, and they're just contributing XRP, this AMM will just become more unstable. It's going to be harder to keep it balanced. There are other things that the AMMs can do, especially on the XRPL, to help to balance things, even in that extreme situation. But that's beyond my pay grade, to be completely honest. So as I view it, the XRPL and the AMMs that they have provide us our best opportunity to use assets that we haven't sold and to generate a yield. We now fully understand how AMMs work and how arbitrageurs balance out impermanent loss to reduce impermanent loss. But we also understand impermanent loss and how it affects the overall value of what we've contributed, or in other words, the overall value of the liquidity pool tokens that we get, even if we don't get the same amount of XRP back when we leave the liquidity pool. Now, in terms of yield, because that's what everyone wants to know, how much money can we make from these AMMs? No idea. What I can say, though, is there is a website that you can go to, and it's called Anodo Swap. So A-N-O-D-O, let me write it. You can use A-N-O-D-O Swap. Just type that into Google. I'm not affiliated with them, never talked to them in my life. It's just someone who is participating in AMMs told me about this platform. And you can have a little exploration on here, and you can see that there actually are XRP USDT pairs. There's XRP CSC, XRP Bitcoin, XRP ETH, XRP USDC, XRP Sologenic. And you've got all of these trading pairs, and you can see the liquidity involved in every single AMM. Now, basically, just a word of advice. If you're going to participate in an AMM, you really want this AMM to have high liquidity. If it has low liquidity, it's more unstable, impermanent loss is going to be a thing, and the arbitrageurs are going to have a harder time balancing out that AMM. So participate in AMMs that have a larger liquidity. You will get a lower percentage of LP tokens, and you will get a lower percentage yield, but risk and reward here, safety versus taking risk. It's really kind of up to you. And so I'm seeing a lot of these, even as I look at it today, you've got some of them that are minus percentage in yield. So the impermanent loss because the liquidity is just not enough, right? You've got some of them that are up to, like the XRP USDC pair is 7.52% yield. And that's over the last 30 days. But many of them are 7% down or 7% up or 5% down, 3% up. So it's really, really tough at this stage to participate in AMMs, I think, as a means to get a consistent yield. When banks and institutions come in and they start creating these liquidity pools and using XRP for these liquidity pools at scale, we're talking trillions of dollars right now, that's when it's probably a beneficial time to be involved for a consistent revenue stream, cash flow stream from AMMs. But remember, that cash flow stream that you get is taxable. So you'll have to report all of that and talk to an advisor for all of that. Anyway, that's my full rundown from start to finish with foundational understanding of markets on how AMMs work. I hope that's been extremely useful for you, and I'll see you in the next one.